The champagne flute shattered against marble. Claire stood frozen in the center of the ballroom, her emerald gown torn at the shoulder, beads scattered across the floor like broken stars. Her husband Marcus didn't move to help her. He stood 15 feet away, his arm wrapped around Vanessa's waist, and he was laughing. Not a polite chuckle. A full, genuine laugh that echoed across the silent room of 200 guests. Vanessa smiled, her red lips curving with satisfaction as she adjusted the strap of her own pristine dress. Claire's hands trembled as she pressed the torn fabric against her skin. She looked at Marcus once. Just once. He met her eyes and shrugged, still smiling. That was the moment Claire decided to destroy him. Welcome to Leora Folktales, where every story cuts deeper than you expect. If you want more stories about revenge, betrayal, and justice served cold, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss what happens when the underestimated strike back. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, because this story is about to take you somewhere dark, deliberate, and absolutely devastating. Now let's rewind and see how we got here. 18 months earlier, Claire Bennett married Marcus Hale in a ceremony that cost more than most people's houses. She was 29, a senior architect at Morrison & Pierce, one of the top firms in the city. Marcus was 34, a portfolio manager at Blackridge Capital with a corner office and a reputation for closing deals nobody else could see. They met at a charity gala where Claire had designed the venue renovation. Marcus told her she had an eye for structure. She told him he had an eye for value. 6 months later, he proposed with a ring that could have funded a small nonprofit. Claire's parents cried at the wedding. Her younger sister Emma whispered that Claire had won the lottery. Everyone said they were perfect together. Claire believed them. She believed him when he said he wanted to build something lasting. She believed him when he said partnership mattered more than profit. She believed him right up until the moment she found the texts. It was a Tuesday in October. Marcus left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered. Claire was making coffee when the screen lit up with a message preview. Last night was perfect. Can't wait to see you Friday. V. She stared at it for 30 seconds. Then she picked up the phone. No passcode. He'd removed it months ago, said he trusted her completely. She scrolled. Vanessa Crane, 26 years old. Junior analyst at Blackridge. The messages went back 11 months. 11 months of late meetings, business trips, and lies so smooth Claire had never questioned them. There were photos. Intimate ones. Hotel room receipts. Dinner reservations at the restaurant where Marcus proposed to Claire. She set the phone down exactly where she found it. She poured her coffee. She went to work. That night at dinner, Marcus asked how her day was. Claire smiled and said it was productive. She didn't confront him. Not yet. Because Claire understood something Marcus had forgotten. She was an architect. She built things to last. And she knew exactly how to make them fall. Claire spent the next 3 weeks gathering information. She hired a private investigator named Richard Cole, a former detective with a reputation for discretion and thoroughness. Richard delivered his first report in 10 days. Vanessa Crane wasn't just Marcus's mistress. She was his strategic partner in something far more interesting. Marcus had been using insider information from Blackridge to make trades through an offshore account registered under Vanessa's cousin's name. Small trades. Nothing flashy. But over 11 months they'd accumulated close to $2 million. Claire read the report twice. Then she smiled for the first time in weeks. Marcus wasn't just unfaithful. He was criminal. And he'd made Vanessa his accomplice, which meant Vanessa had everything to lose too. Claire didn't rush. She documented everything. She copied files from Marcus's home computer while he slept. She recorded conversations using a pen with a built-in microphone. She photographed receipts, traced transactions, and built a timeline that would make a federal prosecutor weep with joy. But Claire wasn't going to the authorities. Not yet. She had something else in mind. The annual Blackridge Capital Gala was scheduled for December 14th. It was the firm's biggest event of the year. Partners, clients, investors, and city officials all gathered to celebrate another year of obscene profits and strategic victories. Marcus had been talking about it for months. He was up for a promotion to senior partner, a position that came with a 7-figure salary bump and equity in the firm. He needed to impress the board. He needed everything to be perfect. Claire told him she'd be there, of course. She even bought a new dress. Emerald green. Custom-fitted. Elegant and understated. Marcus loved it. He said she'd be the most beautiful woman in the room. Claire thanked him. What he didn't know was that Claire had also scheduled a meeting with Jonathan Parrish, the managing partner at Blackridge Capital, for the morning of the gala. Jonathan was 62, a former federal prosecutor who'd built Blackridge on a reputation for ethical investing and regulatory compliance. He was also Claire's father's college roommate. They'd stayed in touch over the years. When Claire called and asked for a private meeting, Jonathan agreed immediately. Claire arrived at Jonathan's office at 9 in the morning carrying a leather portfolio. She declined coffee. She sat across from him, calm and composed, and slid a USB drive across his desk. Jonathan picked it up, curiosity creasing his face. Claire said, "Everything on that drive is verified and documented. Dates, transactions, account numbers, and recordings. Marcus Hale has been conducting insider trading for nearly a year using information obtained through his position at Blackridge. Vanessa Crane, a junior analyst in his department, is his partner. They've made approximately $2 million through an offshore account. The trades are traceable. The evidence is irrefutable." Jonathan's face went pale. He inserted the drive into his computer. For 20 minutes he read in silence. Claire watched him. She didn't fidget. She didn't explain. She simply waited. When Jonathan finally looked up, his expression was granite. He asked, "Why are you bringing this to me instead of the SEC?" Claire leaned forward slightly. She said, "Because I want to watch him lose everything in front of everyone who believed he was untouchable. I want him to know that I'm the reason. And I want it to happen tonight." Jonathan Parrish was many things, but he wasn't a man who tolerated betrayal. He made 3 phone calls before Claire left his office. The first was to Blackridge's head of compliance. The second was to the firm's legal team. The third was to the Securities and Exchange Commission. By noon, a federal investigation had been quietly initiated. By 3 in the afternoon, Vanessa Crane had been escorted out of the building by security. Her access was revoked. Her accounts were frozen. She called Marcus 17 times. He didn't answer. He was in a meeting, preparing his remarks for the gala. Claire knew because she checked his calendar. Everything was moving exactly as she designed it. That evening Claire dressed slowly. She applied her makeup with precision. She fastened her emerald earrings and slipped into her heels. Marcus was already dressed, adjusting his tie in the mirror. He smiled at her reflection. He said, "You look incredible." Claire smiled back. She said, "Thank you. Tonight's going to be unforgettable." If you're still watching at this point, drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who's truly following this shocking story. They arrived at the gala at 7. The ballroom was magnificent, all crystal chandeliers and marble columns, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Marcus worked the room like a politician, shaking hands and laughing at jokes that weren't funny. Claire stood beside him, smiling when appropriate, sipping champagne she didn't taste. She saw Vanessa arrive at 7:30. Vanessa looked frantic. Her eyes were red, her makeup hastily reapplied. She scanned the crowd until she found Marcus. She started toward him. Claire watched. Vanessa reached Marcus and grabbed his arm. She whispered something urgent. Marcus's smile faltered. He glanced around, then pulled Vanessa toward a quieter corner near the coat check. Claire followed at a distance. She couldn't hear their conversation, but she could see Marcus's face shifting from confusion to anger to fear. Vanessa was crying now, gesturing wildly. Marcus grabbed her shoulders, said something sharp, then released her and walked away. Vanessa stood there, trembling. Claire approached her. Vanessa looked up, surprised. Claire said softly, "He's not going to help you. You know that, right?" Vanessa's eyes widened. She stammered, "I don't know what you're talking about." Claire smiled. A cold, knowing smile. She said, "Yes, you do. And by the end of tonight, everyone else will too." At 8 o'clock, Jonathan Parrish took the stage to deliver his opening remarks. He thanked everyone for attending, praised the firm's performance, and introduced the evening's agenda. Then he paused. His expression shifted. He said, Before we continue, I need to address a matter of significant importance. The room went silent. Marcus, standing near the front, looked confused. Jonathan continued. Blackridge Capital was built on a foundation of integrity and trust. Those values are non-negotiable. This afternoon, we were made aware of serious violations of securities law conducted by individuals within this firm. A federal investigation has been initiated. As of this moment, Marcus Hale's employment with Blackridge Capital has been terminated, and all associated accounts and privileges have been revoked. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, people turning to stare at Marcus. Marcus stood frozen, his face drained of color. He looked at Jonathan, then at the crowd, then at Claire. Claire met his eyes. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Marcus's mouth opened, but no words came out. That's when Vanessa lost control. Vanessa pushed through the crowd toward Marcus, shouting, "You said you'd take care of it. You promised me." Security moved toward her, but she was fast. She reached Marcus and grabbed his lapel. The crowd parted. Cameras came out. Vanessa was screaming now. "You told me it was safe. You said no one would find out." Marcus tried to pull away, but Vanessa held on. And then, in a move that would be replayed on social media for weeks, Vanessa grabbed Claire's dress and yanked. The fabric tore at the shoulder, beads scattering across the marble floor. The room went completely silent. Claire stumbled but didn't fall. She caught herself, pressed the torn fabric against her shoulder, and looked at Marcus. He was staring at Vanessa, horrified. Then he did the unthinkable. He laughed. Not loudly, but enough. A nervous, disbelieving laugh that carried across the silent ballroom. Vanessa looked at him, stunned. Claire looked at him too. And in that moment, Marcus realized he'd made a mistake he could never undo. Because Claire didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply turned and walked toward the stage. Jonathan handed her the microphone. Claire's voice was calm, clear, and devastatingly controlled. She said, "Good evening, everyone. My name is Claire Bennett. Some of you know me as Marcus Hale's wife. What you don't know is that for the past 3 weeks, I've been working with federal investigators to document nearly a year of securities fraud orchestrated by my husband and his associate, Vanessa Crane." The room was so quiet you could hear breathing. Claire continued. Marcus used insider information obtained through his position at Blackridge to execute illegal trades worth approximately $2 million. He involved Vanessa Crane to help conceal the activity through offshore accounts. Every transaction is documented. Every conversation is recorded. The evidence has been turned over to the Securities and Exchange Commission, and both Marcus and Vanessa will face federal charges. She paused, letting the weight settle. Then she said, "I stayed silent because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to build a case that couldn't be dismissed or explained away. I wanted justice, not just for myself, but for every person in this room who trusted him." Claire handed the microphone back to Jonathan. She walked off the stage. The crowd parted. No one tried to stop her. Outside, the cold air hit Claire's skin like a baptism. She stood on the steps of the venue, holding her torn dress together, and breathed. Behind her, the ballroom exploded into chaos. Shouting. Security hauling Marcus and Vanessa out separate exits. Camera flashes. Within an hour, the story would be on every local news outlet. By morning, it would be national. Claire pulled out her phone and called her sister Emma. Emma answered on the first ring. Claire said, "It's done." Emma exhaled, relief and pride mixing in her voice. She said, "Are you okay?" Claire looked out at the city lights, glittering and indifferent. She said, "I will be." And for the first time in months she believed it. The legal fallout was swift and brutal. Marcus Hale was arrested 3 days after the gala. Federal agents raided his home, his office, and his offshore accounts. Vanessa Crane was arrested the same day. Both were charged with securities fraud, conspiracy, and wire fraud. Bail was set at $500,000 each. Marcus's family posted his bail. Vanessa's family couldn't afford hers. She stayed in custody. The trial was scheduled for March. Claire filed for divorce the day after Marcus's arrest. Her lawyer was a woman named Angela Briggs, known for dismantling prenuptial agreements and securing maximum settlements. Angela took one look at the evidence and said, "This is going to be easy." She was right. The prenup Marcus had insisted on, the one that protected his assets in case of infidelity, had a clause Marcus had forgotten. It voided all protections if either party was convicted of a felony. Marcus's assets were frozen pending trial, but Claire's weren't. She'd quietly transferred her own savings and separated their joint accounts weeks before the gala. By the time Marcus realized what had happened, Claire had secured the house, the cars, and half of his liquid assets. The rest would come after his conviction. Marcus tried to contact Claire twice. The first time she ignored the call. The second time she answered. He said, "Claire, please. We need to talk." She said, "No, we don't. Your lawyer can talk to mine." He said, "This is all a misunderstanding. I can explain." Claire laughed. A short, cold sound. She said, "Marcus, there are recordings. There are transactions. There are witnesses. The only misunderstanding is that you thought I'd stay quiet." He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "You really hate me that much?" Claire's voice was steady. She said, "I don't hate you. I just don't respect you. And I won't let you walk away pretending you're the victim." She hung up. She never spoke to him again. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Claire attended every day. She sat in the gallery, calm and composed, watching Marcus and Vanessa try to defend the indefensible. The prosecution's case was airtight. They presented transaction records, insider emails, and audio recordings of Marcus and Vanessa discussing trades. They called witnesses who testified to Marcus's access to confidential information. They showed the jury exactly how the scheme worked step by step, dollar by dollar. Marcus's defense attorney tried to argue entrapment, claiming Claire had manipulated evidence. The judge shut it down immediately. The evidence predated Claire's involvement. She hadn't created the crime. She'd simply documented it. On the final day, the jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Marcus Hale was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Vanessa Crane received 6 years. Both were ordered to pay restitution and fines totaling over $3 million. As the judge delivered the sentence, Marcus turned and looked at Claire. She looked back. Her expression was neutral. Not triumphant. Not sad. Just done. Claire's life didn't transform overnight. Revenge wasn't a fairy tale. But slowly things shifted. She sold the house she'd shared with Marcus and bought a smaller, brighter place closer to her office. She threw herself into her work, designing buildings that would outlast the people who used them. Her firm promoted her to lead architect on a major downtown project. Her parents called more often. Her sister visited on weekends. Claire started running again, something she'd abandoned during the marriage. She joined a book club. She learned to cook dishes she'd never tried before. She went to therapy and talked about trust, control, and the quiet rage that had fueled her for months. Slowly, carefully, she let it go. Not because Marcus deserved forgiveness. He didn't. But because Claire deserved peace. And she was finally building it. 2 years later, Claire was standing in the lobby of a building she designed, watching the final pieces fall into place. The structure was elegant, functional, and built to withstand anything. A reporter from a local architecture magazine asked her what inspired the design. Claire thought for a moment. Then she said, "I wanted to build something that couldn't be torn down by carelessness or greed. Something that would last because it was designed with intention, not just ambition." The reporter wrote it down. The article ran the following month with a photo of Claire standing in front of her building, sunlight streaming through the windows she designed. People who knew her story recognized the subtext. People who didn't just saw a brilliant architect. Both were true. Claire framed the article and hung it in her office, not because she needed validation, but because it reminded her of something important. The best revenge wasn't destruction. It was building something better from the ruins. Marcus Hale served 5 years of his sentence before being released on parole. He moved to a small town 2 states away, where no one knew his name or his story. He worked at a logistics company, managing inventory and keeping his head down. Vanessa Crane was released after 4 years. She moved back in with her parents and took a job as a bookkeeper for a local nonprofit. Neither of them rebuilt the lives they'd lost. Some things once broken can't be repaired. Claire never thought about them. Not with anger, not with satisfaction. They were simply part of a chapter she'd closed. The life she was building now had no room for them. It was filled with work she loved, people she trusted, and a future she was designing one deliberate choice at a time. If you made it to the end of this story, you just witnessed what real revenge looks like. Not loud, not messy, just devastatingly precise. If you loved this story, smash that like button, drop a comment telling us what you thought about Claire's strategy, and subscribe to Leora Folktales for more stories where the underestimated always win. Hit that notification bell so you never miss the moment justice is served. We'll see you in the next story. And remember, the quietest people are often the most dangerous.